Okay,
Think we're good.
call meeting to order and roll call. Gatto. Chalice,
Here.
Black.
Here.
Rivas. Walker.
Here.
Oh, there's two Walker. Sarah Walker.
Here.
And Chanel Walker. Okay, so we have four, so we have a quorum. Citizen comments period. We don't have anybody here, do we? I was told this was gonna come out in here. So, no comment period, so we go to four, which is staff reports and presentations, receive a report, hold a discussion, and provide staff feedback regarding general updates on department announcements, trail-related amenities, procedures, maintenance, and capital improvement projects. Presenter, Chris Piscotto, Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. Chris Scott, Parks Deputy Director. So today, as we do every board meeting, we're going to walk you through a number of updates. Where today I'm going to be talking about various topics, being from, as you can tell, you've noticed new staff members present. So I'm going to introduce new staff. We're also going to be talking a little bit about partnerships, volunteers, some of the projects that we're working on, a few budget updates regarding the current status of all of the CIP projects, where they stand, as well as talk about some operating procedures all throughout our park system that are related to trails. So we're going to have a number of topics that we're going to talk to today. So first, I'd like to introduce Tamara Aquino. Tamara is our newest member, Business and Strategic Planning Manager. She joins us from the city of Dallas, where she spent 6 years. She was a former, actually, park board member for the city of Garland. I mean, I don't want to steal any more of her thunder, so I'll let her say a few words.
I guess that's it, really. Well, hey guys, I'm excited to meet y'all. I love trails, and so I'm so happy there's a committee here to really get that going. I remember the first question I thought to myself, well, where to live in Kyle was like, where's the nearest trail? Because I'd like to live near there. It's hard to choose, but that's why we have this committee. So we're really excited that y'all are here. And yeah, I guess I come from the city of Dallas. Last stint I have is this overseeing community partnerships for 1/3 of Dallas, which is probably still a little bigger than Kyle, but it's great. We have, all those different trails, lots of groups, and that's what I hope for us is that, nonprofits will, begin and flourish here in Kyle to really, get that support in between like those public-private partnerships. And so we're excited to have your advocacy in getting the trail system up and running. So thank you.
And the next member I'd like to introduce is Will Atkinson. He's probably a familiar face for some of you. He did join us from the planning division. So he did start with Parks Department this past December.
Yeah,
I believe. So I don't want to steal his thunder, but he is our park planning and project manager, and I'll let him say a few words.
Yeah, that was been working for the city for about 9 years now. Up until December, I was in the planning department, just working my way up from city planner, which is entry level, all the way up to planning director. And then this role became available, and I was kind of already dabbling with park capital improvements kind of on the side of the Vibe Trail, and was offered, I took it. So I like it. It's exciting, and we have a lot of projects, both funded and actually going through contract, when we're starting to kick them out for design. We'll be talking about at least one of them or several of them tonight. But it's trails, we're talking about new parks, upgrading parks, playgrounds, you name it. Anything you think of that's parks, we're at some point in the next 5 years probably gonna touch it. So it's very exciting. We're also working on the first project actually is the Republic Drive renovation. We just purchased back in November 2 6,500 square foot warehouses for park staff. And so they're completely finished out and they have certificate of occupancies from the building department, but they don't quite meet our needs in the configuration they're in. So that contract is pretty much up and running, and they're already taping out what it's going to look like for the renovations, and we're officing out of it at the same time, and it's fantastic. And I'm not saying that from a sarcastic standpoint, like it's good, it's exciting. So it's gonna be an exciting time.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll just echo what Will said. It's an exciting time for sure. We have a number of You'll see just from the general agenda of all the different talking points that we will have today. There is a lot of changes occurring within the city of Kyle as a whole, not only from development, but staff alone. I myself, one of the newest members of the team being 3 months here now. But there is this vision of driving a bunch of projects that are much needed and even probably much wanted probably from the community. So we're excited to have these two. They're going to be a vital piece of that puzzle in order for us to take Kyle to the next level and truly have assets and improvements that the community will be fond of. So going into, which leads me into partnerships, one of Tamara's roles is to incorporate partnerships and volunteers. So we're currently working with various efforts, and not to say that we haven't been. Stacy has been doing quite a bit when it comes to CSR programs, or even just incorporating specific one-offs with trail cleanup days. Talking about maybe building trails. So I think there's been some instances, if I'm not mistaken, Stacy, that we have volunteers also build some trails. So there's a number of efforts that we're looking to enhance and increase our partnerships and volunteers, where we're going to be incorporating RecDesk. RecDesk is our platform where we register for various programs. We're going to start featuring, I guess, individual, what would you call them? Like not classes, but just registration days on where they can come out and identify set parameters and set schedules of activities or special events that we have. So that's sort of what we're gearing to. We're still trying to ramp up that program. But that is information that we're looking to do. But one of the discussion points that we wanted to have with the board was just generating additional strategies on how we can engage and really truly enhance our volunteer. I know we've had a number of meetings, the chair, Mr. Josh Keller, as far as sparking ideas, maybe some partnership groups with specific bike organizations, or eventually down the line having friends groups that can lead a lot of those maintenance efforts for us. Truly, we're going to need a partner, not only to maintain the current status of our soft surface trails, but even start enhancing some of those. So establishing basically that base foundation on where we're going to be or where we want to be. That's something that we're looking and eager to hear any ideas, or maybe this have been talking points that have been talked about in the past amongst the committee itself. But again, with new staff taking place and with Tamara and her ideas that she has, I know she's working on revamping that program. So I guess before I put it to you guys, I don't know if you have a few words to say for the program itself.
No, I mean, it's just, I think there's already been like seeds planted, and so now it's just really, putting more to it, so it can just really grow to where it needs to be. So, just because before there wasn't a position that was really truly just purely partnerships for parks, and so, and that's kind of like what this role is now, so really having a lot more specialized focus on them. Because in my experience, it's just more sustainable, because I always think, city employees, may not always live in the city. And so that's why we're always gonna need to partner with the actual residents, because y'all are gonna be here forever. Like, this is like your home. And so for us to always move, because we can move anywhere, like life happens, whatever it looks like. But the residents and the people that live here stay here. And so we need to have like that engagement together, so we can make sure everything that was built together stays for a very long time. So, plans is to have like a friends of, Kyle's Trails. And so we're really hoping eventually we can get more friends groups going. I'm really about that, so that eventually we have 501c3s, y'all have those groups have more access to get grants for like trails and things like where we can't, because we're a government entity. So there's just so much more whenever we have partnerships happening. We have a lot more access to resources to really fund these projects where we may not, have funding or whatever it may be. Like, it's just stretching it like with the city. So it's just putting both together where it's matching. I don't know. There's honestly just so many possibilities that I've seen in other cities that I know that can happen here. I'm really excited.
I guess with that, I mean, I'll open it up for if there's any discussion items. We sort of giving you guys your strategy on how we're going. I mean, if you're like, hey, sounds great, If there's no additional discussion, that's perfect. Just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to mention a few words if there are any.
I've made a few notes on the slide presentation. So this is one of the slides. I did put some stuff down. We're doing, we kind of emailing, and I think you're wondering about the kids on bikes in parks, which has been the most successful thing we've had so far. So that's kind of my experience with it. So when I mentioned kind of this other stuff, I kind of have that in mind. Talk about trail cleanup days, and I think I meant this is the kind of thing when I do read books. I've been talking to you about this book for a couple, and I watched another one of these American Trails seminars in the past week, so I'm all fired up about it. So they mentioned it was, I think this one was focused on biking, so it was called a rake and ride. So come rake or work for an hour, ride for an hour kind of thing. So I was actually planning, actually I talked to the Carlos, I'm gonna mess up his name, Seabrink or something like that. He does the San Marcos Trails. He's like the resident that's been involved in the San Marcos Trails for years, and he said you need something consistent. You need a cleanup day that's like the first Saturday of every month or the first weekend of every month. He said something that people know if they can't make it, that there's another one coming up. And that was actually reiterated in that seminar that session that I just watched. So I was thinking January, and then the weather was bad, and then I was thinking this weekend, and my life is crazy this weekend. So that's something I'll be throwing at you guys and seeing what you guys think. As soon as we can get that going, the better. Because I know as soon as I had the intention to do this last year, but once you get going and things happen, all of a sudden it's 110 degrees and no one's gonna come if the first time you do it is in June or July. So we kind of have to figure that kind of stuff out too, which is I was mentioning last meeting, like the winter and fall are the best times to get this stuff going. So I have a couple things to say about the vibe, so it might overlap when you get into that too. But this American Trail session was talking about people are sometimes they're intimidated to go out to the trails for whatever reason. Just the fact that it's over there and I've never gone over there, and it's in the woods and you don't know who's in the woods or what's in the woods. These are just, and this could be anything. People just don't, they're just like, that's not what I do. It's not, I'm not I was gonna say a trails person. So they also were like, we need programming. Programming is a huge part of getting people out. And as the vibe, they use this example of like a sidewalk coming into your neighborhood. I'm like, that's exactly what the vibe is. It's a literal sidewalk saying, come into the trails. So if we're doing that and we're not doing the programming, I feel like we're kind of missing out a little bit. And again, this is a very fresh idea in my brain, but it's something I want to kind of develop and talk about. They mentioned in this seminar that we have to create a culture of welcoming, which is another one that came from that book. The trails have to be proven that they're cared for, which ties in with those maintenance days and everything else. And they have to make sure that they're safe. And I know safety is Kyle's #1 priority with everything. So I feel like that, plus we've been talking about those signs, those 911 signs where they are for a year. So I feel like we're definitely covering that too. Oh, and this last one, this is a little bit of a tangent, so you can shut me up at any point, but I've been dealing with a lot of, on my Facebook page, the Trail Coalition, people are like, why haven't you signed the tree petition, the tree thing? And it's just crazy. And they are like pressuring me to sign it. And I'm like, well, can I learn something first? I don't want to just sign this petition without learning like what's gonna happen if the tree comes down or if they move it or how much money is involved. And what I've learned so much about how the cost could just go ongoing and ongoing. And I've also learned, like, from an environmental standpoint, how much Kyle's like really not good environmentally. Like, it's really, a lot of things are bad. And I think the intention of like planting trees is great, but it is not gonna solve these problems that I've learned about. Like, and I want trails to be an avenue for people to get educated about this kind of stuff. So that's another conversation I would like to start. It ties in with everything I just said, like welcoming people in, but also like, hey, you can't just go plant any tree anywhere. It does all kind of crazy stuff. So that is just a tip of the iceberg of all the stuff I've been learning. So that's stuff I'm bringing up now. I've never bought that specific one about like some kind of education program or something. but I might get really passionate about, so you'll probably hear about it more and more, because it's, as people hound me to sign this petition, I'm like, what can I at least learn? And now it's like, it's opened up all this new stuff. That's all for that slide.
There to kind of tie your conversation into the friends group, I think the Cow Trail Coalition might be a good friends group that we can start, because I think that would be a good starting point to do something, and then as we get more trails throughout the city, then we can maybe start looking at maybe like getting some HOAs together
Mhm.
and more localized to like your specific area. But I think to get the trail, like the friends group through there would be good. And then also on like the learning about it, not just the tree, but one of the things that really gets better is that people don't have an understanding of how these things develop over time. And they think the city's been shady, and it's not, it's just like the natural progression of development. So I mean, that can kind of tie into it as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree with.
Well, like I said, I've done presentations with groups, I like, back in Dallas, I was in an area where there was hardly, I think maybe like one kind of type of friends group, and then I got 8 to go in there. Just working, again, the welcoming, the gauging, a lot of it was like, they're Spanish speakers, and so I got to like their level too, and so, I mean, I just think one of those things was hosting like how to be a friends of group workshop at the library, and so I'm happy to like, maybe get with your group or whichever the groups that want to like, hey, I'd like to see how we could have like some type of partnership with the park we have, like, and it doesn't ever have, I think sometimes you're like, oh, we have to like do these crazy like accomplishes, like, no, like first year, you can just focus on volunteer recruitment, we just maybe do some type of a program like quarterly or once a year, really put into it. It really is the scope of like where your group is at, and each year it can just change. And so I think sometimes that intimidates people of what that Friends of looks like, or the coalition. And so I'm happy to meet with the group and just get a starting point, hearing what y'all are wanting and how that fits in with everything, and where we can have a starting point and start programming for future. But yeah, I'm excited. So just send me an email. And I'm sure, because I think I have to go after this slide, I have to go downstairs and help them with the public input meeting. But he has my email. So in case I don't catch y'all, please email me. I'm pretty good at responding.
Any other feedback regarding this slide?
I kind of have just a couple questions. So like, maybe something like a monthly educational trails walk? Or,
Well, I don't want to, and I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I don't want to establish anything yet. I want to meet with y'all and really go through it and see what is the best programming, because I don't want to commit to anything that we may not be able to keep. So we'll have like just this really conversation to really go into it.
And I
before
would
we-
just, it's just all brainstorming, like I would
Yeah.
put every idea out there and just see what everyone thinks work.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to.
Yeah, you're talking more of programming aspects like walks, nature walks.
yeah, because he had mentioned the environmental education.
Yeah,
And, but both.
But that was mentioned,
yeah.
what you just mentioned, walks, or.
Like, environmental, say you walk and see the local fauna, and you go, oh, this is a.
That's exactly what the American Trails thing was.
Getting people out there so they feel more comfortable in the area, get to know the thing.
Yeah,
plus they know-
almost like that's like the entry level, but then as they go on, start to tell them how things work and
Yeah.
what really.
And this is gonna be more of programming coming from the Parks Department, that we're looking to, that's basically what you're saying, to promote and advocate for the trails themselves. And then just, spill that over to where we could hopefully gain some volunteers once they start experiencing our trails.
Mhm.
But I can take that even a step further from a conservation framework. We actually presented to Park Board a conservation strategy on how staff is looking to implement local flora, fauna from a native standpoint, sustainability into the park system as a whole. So that's gonna be an item that's gonna be going to council here as tentatively on February 18th. But more than likely it might get pushed, because I believe there's like 50 items that night, so I'm not gonna let us speak on that. So that's gonna be something that is to come. And once we have a framework, so to say, I'll love to have John Davis come. He is our conservation manager, and provide some of those strategies on how we're looking to incorporate that within the trail system, which I know Stacy has been a big part of already. Regarding just recognizing the local flora and fauna along our trail system, riparians, we talked about the environmental component, that's another piece, so the riparians, the environmentally sensitive areas, how do we set the proper setbacks, from center line, of creeks, and then you start getting to floodplains and all this engineering stuff that comes into play from a development standpoint, that some people don't necessarily understand. But that's the advocacy and more the education, which you're talking about. So we are looking to go that route. So I appreciate you bringing up those comments. All right, I guess, Amber, if you got
Anything on me?
all right, so some updates on the trail division for winter projects. There are a number of projects that we have that we're currently working on, but one thing that we recently completed or at least started on is the trail crew did start building the trail east of I-35 between Philomena and the frontage road. And this is a section of the Vibe Trail, currently designed just as a soft surface trail that I believe Stacy's staff is cutting in, establishing, I should say, that trail itself. So we are looking for this being a future section of the Vibe, which I know Will's gonna talk about in our next item that we have tonight regarding the Vibe Trail, that he can probably talk about this section a little bit more. So budget update. So part of the Trails 2020 bond, there was $2 million that was allocated. There were a number of furnishings and amenities that were identified for the trails itself. I can tell you from a full transparency standpoint, from current staff's point, it's one of these we have no trails, right? So it's almost we're putting together some furnishings and like items out within the trail network that doesn't necessarily exist. So we're currently looking to see how is it, and the trails, I'm not gonna say we don't have any trails because there are some trails. But from the maintenance aspect, incorporating some of the signage, I know that's been something that Stacy's team has been working on. Bathroom facilities along the trail, that was, I believe, a council initiative that they wanted to emphasize bathrooms. Everyone wants bathrooms within any park site itself. So even though that's something that's definitely needed, one of the strategies that staff is looking to do is how do we go ahead and put the $61,000 that's remaining into trail building. So from a trail building standpoint, do we seek grants? Will be an item that we'll be talking about of how the strategy will come on expanding the possibility of incorporating more miles of trail due to this. And I do foresee additional CIP funding maybe being reappropriated within parks themselves, especially the Vibe. As an example, Waterloo Park, we executed a task order. So that's going to be one that's going to be coming out of a different line, but we are still trying to expand the trail system. So wanted to just highlight where we stand currently on the budget regarding the $2 million allocation.
Could I get a little conversation about that?
Yeah, sure.
Where I'm coming from 2 years ago, before there was any trails committee or anything, I remember meeting with 7 guys, local business owners and some Austin Ridge Rider guys. And the whole point of the conversation was there's this Vibe coming. We don't know if it's actually coming or not. All this money's gonna get put into concrete trails, and everyone there was like, dirt trails are where it's at. That's what
Yeah.
the whole feeling. So when I was looking at that, I was like, oh, that's $1.4 million going towards the Vibe. So I'm pro Vibe, but I'm not pro Vibe over dirt trails. I've kind of said that, every meeting. So what can I say? A couple of their numbers I was crunching, what every mountain biker would love to see is machine built trails, because that is what is the most fun, and that's what would attract people from all over Central Texas. I do think the pump track will attract some, but we've said this before, a pump track right next to machine built trails, it's like, that's as good as it gets. So I think the high end of like how much money per 1 mile of trail is $50,000 would get 1 mile of machine built trail. I did hear 15,000 and 30, so I went the highest, 50,000. So when someone who's like advocating for machine built trail, and I know that's not what a hiker wants too, is
Yeah.
simply for a biker, is well, there's 1.4. You can do 28 miles of machine built trail for that much money. So you, from where this came 2 years ago, I have to at least say, where's exactly, and I do want to say that I have been so impressed by how the Parks Department's been like, we are using every dollar the best we possibly can, and like what you've done with the pump track and the skate park. So you've earned credibility and you've earned trust. So it's not like I'm questioning it, but I do want to at least say, when there's so much money going into concrete, which I assumed, and it still might be that way, I don't understand this enough, comes from street funding. Like, isn't the street funding's budget like huge compared to a parks or a trails budget? So if all this money is going into concrete, 1.4, what's left for something like a machine built trail? And I do understand, I never was told machine built trails was part of it,
Yeah, for sure.
but I'm just like, hey, that's a lot of money going to concrete.
Yeah, no, great points. One of the things that I could say is that the master plan, we're still currently in the Parks Master Plan stage where we're finalizing the feedback. There's gonna be a presentation to Park Board scheduled this next month with the findings from that survey, where they are identifying, I mean, I can already tell you, trails are the #1 ask from the master plan. Connectivity is an issue, accessibility is an issue. So that's one thing is, how do you start connecting different regions of the city trails? As far as providing main spine trails, what I call, the multimodal trails from what the vibe is, that's gonna be typically your concrete trails that you're referring to. But now your secondary trails, that get you into natural paths, that get you into maybe these bicycle playgrounds or individual pump tracks, or whatever that could be. Those are gonna be things that we're gonna be looking at, and we are gonna be strategizing on how those go. $2 million, I mean, I can tell you, to build a trail right now, concrete trail, $2 million gets you a mile. So it's one of those that we are gonna have to divvy up how we're strategizing this. $2 million is only gonna get us so much, and a lot of it has already been allocated in a way. That's not to say that what's allocated for the vibe, that we can adapt and figure out these secondary paths, or how do we connect to the Great Springs initiative. I mean, there's different avenues and different aspects on how you take that, but staff is being creative with the funding on how can we start incorporating within the individual parks themselves, developing these master plans. So one of the things in master plans, when it comes to the park itself, so there's this generalized comprehensive master plan that is going to be a guiding tool for the next 10 years for the department, really for the city. From then, you start focusing on these individual areas where you start creating a secondary layer, let's start peeling the onion, and then you start creating sites themselves. So one of the things that we are looking to do, and information that we've heard, is before we start creating new assets or new parks, can we please improve our existing parks? Which I agree, it is long overdue. Some of these parks, when it comes to their condition and the aesthetic that they're currently in. And so how do we incorporate bicycle trails, or not bicycle trails, bicycle playgrounds or specific pump tracks within some of those sites like Waterleaf? Waterleaf will probably be a good one, which we already have sort of a course, but how do you create more of that experience, which is what people seek? So they're in the works, is ultimately what I'm trying to get to, is that those are all in the works, and we are looking to figure out how is it that we can accommodate all these various asks and needs. So this budget that you see here in front of you is not going to achieve that just based on what's already been exhausted or already been paid for, I should say. But we are trying to incorporate all those various aspects and start trying to get shovel ready from the sense of getting our site plans or our engineering done, for us to start seeking grants, or for us to start asking 2-3 years from now, saying, hey, we have these plans ready, we're ready to go. So that's the whole definition of that shovel ready aspect. So that's the strategy that most departments that start creating all these trails throughout their cities, but also start successfully receiving grants is by having those shovel ready documents. So one of the asks from TechStop, which is a transportation alternative grant that's currently active, is that they are looking for projects that are far into the design and ready to start going. There's always a shot clock when it comes to this funding mechanism that they're wanting to start just throwing. I mean, they're ready to throw dollars out, but we do need to set ourselves into establish ourselves in the sense of having a lot of these plans up front for us to start going for these $15,000 projects, where if we tie the bigger dollars on those other ones, we can start going for those $15,000 projects or $20,000 projects to get this premier facility. So long-winded answer, but ultimately just wanted to let you know that the strategy itself is right there. We're in the chess game right now.
I had a quick question. Was there ever a $4 million? Did we ever talk about 4 million when we first started? Was there a match? Is there a match?
There was
something.
So there was a match that David kind of told me about, but I was always just told 2 million, yeah, something like that, but I was always just told that I was working with the 2 million.
So there was a dollar for dollar match for the between the city and Hayes
Hayes,
County,
yeah.
and there was a total of $4 million.
Yeah.
It was split down the middle, right? I want to say there's approximately just under 3.4 million left out of the four combined. But the part when it comes to design, that comes out of our side of it.
I see, so we're on
And
the
then-
first starting
yeah, so-
budget.
Right,
the
right, so we're,
first Part of that.
right,
Okay.
so for the Vibe Trail, the approved contract that council, and I'll talk about this more in a little bit, but that approved back in January for the Waterleaf and Button Creek section, the 1.57 mile total section. That is gonna be fully funded on the city side for the 2020 bond, and then we'll start construction also with that same portion. And then once we exhaust that fund, then we'll start asking for reimbursements from Hayes County and drawing down from that.
Oh,
And then that'll be fully exhausted and we still have to build the rest of that trail. So we have other CIP or pots in the capital improvements program that we can pull from related to Vibe Trail stuff.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
yeah, so it's a combination of all.
And so it sounds like you've already answered this, but it's complicated. I just want to make sure in the future, from what I've learned, cities pay for things like the Vibe with like the big fund for streets, like,
Yeah, I meant to ask that. So depending on where it is, so if you're incorporating along, the street itself, along the right of way, then there are times that those projects can be had. But the experiences that people seek are, kind of like within the woods or kind of offshoots where they feel separated. So once you start separating yourself from those main roads, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult of creating or pushing those dollars, to go there. But if you have them along main roads, then yes, you could definitely incorporate, which I believe the Vibe does have some of that already. So it's not gonna be like all this money is gonna be dedicated to that. There is funding set aside for that. However, keep in mind, construction is getting expensive every day. So the road itself is gonna be that priority. So at times, that they could say, oh, rather than it being a 10-foot trail, maybe let's go a 6-foot trail. I've seen other municipalities do that in the past. Not saying that's what's gonna happen here. But those dollars, I'm not sure when that bond, if it's similar to this bond package here, 2020, but now you start saying you're not gonna have this asset until 2027. At that point, there's gonna be tough decisions. So that's where some of those avenues are kind of like, yeah, I've had this actually happen before. We'll let parks take care of it later with their funding that they have. And it takes parks the whole other 5 years in order for us to get there. So there are avenues to better prepare for that. But yeah, a great point.
and that's exactly what I'm worried about, is that this Vibe becomes the parks thing. And we want to get all this other stuff done, and it's like, well, we can't because we are the Vibe people and every resource is going into it. That would be, I feel like, the worst thing, especially when after hearing all the things that you guys want to do. So It sounds like you have a plan for it, but it's just like we really don't know what's gonna happen.
A lot of times it does come down to the per project basis. So for example, the Marketplace Avenue extension right over here in by HEB, that is a road bond project. The Vibe Trail that was initially per the Vibe Trail map is supposed to be parallel to it. But because it connects to it and it comes off as a spur, they're still being able to use the fund. There's a rational nexus associated with it. But it's at its limit
Yeah.
on that funding source, right?
Okay.
But when it comes down to like the Waterleaf segment, that's definitely not roads. That's Parks Bond because it's in the middle of Waterleaf Park.
Mhm.
There's gonna be access points to it, but not
Yeah,
streets.
yeah.
So it really just depends. There's 8 out of the 10 miles for the road bond have Vibe Trail on them, and they are being absolutely funded by the road bond. But the question that ultimately, when maintenance starts to happen on them, and what have you, the question will pop up, which department's going to maintain it? I'm in terms of those, I'm thinking probably the road crew and public works adjacent to the
We'll
road.
see,
But
we'll find out.
That do sidewalks too adjacent.
But
So
the thing to add as well is
Yeah.
like, what part of the marketplace, there's like multifamily and some other development.
mhm.
Sometimes the developer is responsible for whatever section of five is right adjacent
yeah.
to theirs as well.
Mhm.
So that's how the city can like get these sections constructed.
Great point.
And we try to push that as far as we can because we do have limited.
Sure.
So,
Well, at some point, doesn't have to be tonight, or it might come up during your presentation too, but how much of the whole vibe plan is like, this is definitely gonna come out of parks? Cause what,
Yeah.
and that's something maybe we can always get involved with, and I would always say, well, let's make it dirt until we figure out how to make it concrete, so.
And that
I'm
could
just
very-
curious about how
That
that's
very
going.
well, I mean, going back to that project that we just talked about, I mean, that very well is happening right now. A lot of our trails are, existing over the Vibe, where we're cutting in certain paths to start creating soft surface trails. Because we do need to start incorporating those,
Mhm.
so as long as we're able and capable of, and have the equipment to do it, then, we're glad to do that. So yes, absolutely, that's gonna be something that we'll be looking to even expand even further.
Okay, thank you.
Nice. So, talking about fitness equipment, so part of some of the strategy on amenities, as I was talking about, is incorporating. I believe there was a desire to incorporate fitness equipment along the trails. So one of the things that was started, or I think 2021, 2022, this project itself, this was a grant that was received on behalf of the city, that's offered through the National Fitness Campaign, that they provide a grant at a discount, pretty much they give you a discount for this equipment, where we're incorporating public art into it. So this location is going to be at Lake Kyle, which is one of our trailheads, so to say, for the Vibe itself. But this is going to be featured at Lake Kyle. We're currently in the process of engineering the foundation, pouring the slab. We are looking for this to start pouring the concrete for the slab itself within the next month or so, for us to have this officially open and unveiled come late spring. If I were to put a month, probably April timeframe, for us to be able to have this available for the public. So this is an exciting project, and as you can see by the image there, that is local art from our staff member. Actually, there's a staff member, that talented artist, that went ahead and incorporated that was approved through the Public Art Committee and Council.
Okay, so that removes us from needing, because we had talked about that, and it removes that, or it put places that need more at Lake Kyle, and we don't have to worry about that water leaf anymore.
Yeah, and that's that goes all back to the strategy, right? So it's one of, yeah, it's one of those when it comes to, as I mentioned, I alluded to, there's a lot of amenities and furnishings that were allocated along the trail system that didn't necessarily exist. From as far as how you incorporate these assets, because now you start talking about accessibility, where you have to have RAS, so RAS inspector, which is the ADA. So now you start incorporating ADA into it, which you can have that with soft surface, with stone like gravel. You can have those paths to incorporate that, but that's another maintenance component. So there's all these layers that come into play. But to answer your question, yes, this is a way for us to achieve that need, and we will potentially be looking to add more, but being strategic about it, maybe putting it within the trailheads, not necessarily along the trails. So that's something that we're looking to figure out, but main focus right now is let's go ahead and start incorporating these trails and then start adding these furnishings like fitness equipment, like water stations, lighting, I mean, all those other needs from a safety standpoint that we talked about earlier. So winterization, we did want to highlight that staff is currently working on SOPs as a whole, not just winterization. We're doing standard operating procedures from day-to-day tasks to checklist, inspection list, you name it. We're trying to create a process for it just to be a little bit more intentional about our operation, but also try to find efficiencies within our operation. So one of those components that comes to protecting our infrastructure is winterizing the equipment. I come from the North Texas area where from November to March, everything is closed that has plumbing. And that's because of the cold weather that occurs here in Central Texas. I've heard it's a little bit different. I mean, I've experienced some cold, I guess, the last few weeks where we did actually have to shut down the bathrooms, so all of our park restrooms. And we just reopened them actually yesterday or 2 days ago.
I did mine Monday, I'm
Yeah,
not sure,
I
but
think Monday.
within the last couple days.
Yeah, you know what day we're in right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, this week on Mondays when we incorporated or we reopened. But this is gonna be an ongoing process that if any weather, we see any freezing weather, 32 degrees, and really rule of thumb that we're trying to go to is adopt a standard of, was it 40 degrees?
I suggested.
Yeah, so that we have.
Sometimes things are lower than they expected.
Yeah, the feels like is
So-
a real thing. So if we were to set a baseline on, hey, if it's below 40 degrees, then we'll be able to decommission them, do what we need in order to protect the infrastructure, and then reopen them when we have consecutive days where we have warm weather. So that's a strategy that we're looking to do, and that's going to be an education standpoint on behalf of the public, because people are expecting their restrooms to be open. So that's going to be a communication tool that we're looking to expand, but we wanted to highlight that this is something that we're looking to implement because we do have bathrooms within our trails. And along the same lines with the restroom updates, Cool Springs does feature a bathroom that has been closed. It's currently winterized still. I don't know. It's still winterized.
It's currently winterized because we need to change the locks as well because of issues.
And so there was unfortunately some vandalism that occurred. That was the reason why it closed originally. And that is the reason why we have to change the locks, because we need to put a timer on the lock themselves. So after a certain time, people don't break in, because there was some damage to the toilet, there was some damage to the sink itself. So not only are we looking to improve the door locks, but we're also looking to improve the those fixtures themselves to avoid vandalism as much as we can.
I did actually today meet with a camera installer as well.
And we're looking to add cameras.
That was not here, because it's just today. So,
Another update on a trail restroom that was identified within that budget is the Plum Creek restroom, which is located near Button Creek. We are nearing the date of when we're looking to have that installation. I believe we're still working with our permitting team to finalize some details, but that should be finalized later this spring. One of the things that we're having to look at is the ADA compliance. As I mentioned, from a ADA standpoint earlier today, because of a specific, or really the architecture component that comes to it, we have to register most of our projects with TDLR, which essentially mandates all these various requirements, such as accessibility for walkways. So we are going to have to improve the path itself from the playground to the bathroom within the creek that you notice there. So it's kind of hard to see, but the blue, if you look at the screen up there, if you can see my mouse, this is the location where this blue pin is of the bathroom. The existing playground is here. This is concrete, but from the concrete to the trail, we're going to have to do a decomposed granite walkway.
Yeah, and that, even that walkway is gonna be temporary until the bike trail that we just kicked off design for Waterleaf segment is completed, which then we'll remove the DG and it'll be permanent trail. I reached out to TDLR specifically, because as I was looking at this project, I was like, well, how in the world is someone in a wheel, are we gonna have to have just this restroom sitting out there in the middle of the park with no access to it for accessibility? Are we gonna get dinged on the back end if we don't provide something? So I asked them, they're like, yeah, as long as it meets, it stays within maximum slopes, running across slopes, and you have the bonding agent for the DG, that's fine.
Yeah.
So,
And I would add to that too, some of the reasons why, I mean, the situations are occurring is because in the past, we didn't have construction documents. So this was just something like, hey, an idea popped up and we're gonna go install this bathroom without incorporating these various aspects. So that's changing that direction on how we're incorporating that, but that, just to give you a little bit framework on the back end, those are things that we're looking to improve as a whole. Signage updates. So this was something that has been talked about the last several meetings, I believe, but we are looking to install these if not already installed. Staff did begin to install these in January, and we're currently trying to complete by, what do you have in date?
I was
Spring?
hoping, well, I was hoping the button area by the, like, mid-February, I think I said. It's going a little slow because we've had a lot of down trees lately though,
Mhm.
but, so, yeah, that's.
Yeah, but talking about partnerships earlier, you know, this could be something that if we were to have volunteers, I mean, this is always an opportunity to incorporate. So those are those various aspects on how we can expedite some of these deliverables as we start having some of these partnerships that we highlight on the beginning portion of this presentation. But these signs, do want to let you know that we currently are working on them.
I had some people say they want to come put up, like, hey, I'll just go do it. I'm like, well, let me check with them and see. And one thing I want to throw out to you guys is you have conversations about trails, if you have conversations with them, or if you have any thoughts on what might keep someone from going out to the trails because they are afraid, they don't know where to go. You know, they don't have the right signage. What would help them? What would make them feel comfortable? And that's where a friend of mine was like, he wanted to get orange signs, and so you walk right up to Waterleaf or wherever, and it would just say Orange Loop. And you almost follow that color the whole way around. Like, I know I'm going for a 3-mile hike or whatever. So just something to keep in mind. And, you know, I'll talk to Stacy about if we can do orange or whatever. And yeah, like whatever part of town you're in, if you're like, I would like to see access here, that makes me feel like I could go to this that's the kind of thing I would love to see us figure out how to make that work.
And so maps, so part of those many similar to the signs themselves, we do want to feature maps to illustrate, hey, here's this route. Here is the starting point, this is how you get there, and hopefully have signage along the way to navigate or help them navigate along the trail. So that is something that we're currently doing GPS coordinates and identifying those various paths for us to start incorporating maybe some introductory base maps that we can have. I can tell you that staff is looking at implementing like a signage plan where we're incorporating the signs themselves within the trailheads, but also the signs when you come to Greg Clark Park, that there's going to be those nice, you know, plaques at the entrance of the park that say, welcome to Greg Clark Park. So we are looking to incorporate our entire, what they call environmental signage, just from the various aspects of entryways, monuments, gateways, even to just maps themselves within the platforms of the trailheads. So that's something in the works, but I do want to mention that staff is looking to, at least for the time being, start shooting these GIS coordinates for us to hand over to our wonderful GIS team to do their magic and give us a pretty map to put out there. And last but not least, I just want to highlight that trail staff, with assistance of community workers, we're able to build additional miles of trail, single track trail by Button Park. that ultimately connects people to the Wildflower Loop. So this is an initiative that we're continuing to do as a whole. We are looking to go in there and conduct maintenance and keep up with the trails themselves, especially right now within the winter seasons. That we are currently undergoing a restructure internally when it comes to workload capacity. So where we can probably have the trails crew address more of the trails themselves, maybe take out responsibilities that should live in a different area, such as, hey, rather than having our trails crew go and mow this park where we have our maintenance team mowing, we can go ahead and have them pick that up. So we can then redirect and prioritize the trails division to focus on the trails. Because that was something that wasn't necessarily done in the past, just because of the need that we have. So now that new leadership has come into play, we are looking to advance, and hopefully you'll be seeing a lot of more of these from the single track standpoint that we're implementing more trails within the park system.
I would like to make a point, kind of a question. Can we, or is there a plan for single track, like almost putting that into the plan, and how to create it and then how to like maintain it? I had this thought because I was talking to the Austin Ridge Riders guy who he does most of his work at Walnut Park up in North Austin. And I actually saw it on Facebook. His kid said, "Hey, Dad, how did it almost looks like the trail has the trees growing over like a canopy over the track?" And I called him, I was like, "Well, our single track is cut real wide. What do we have to do to get that?" And he's like, "Well, it's just there's standards that you kind of follow. There's even things you can plant along the way." I'm just like, "Oh, do we have any of that? Can I help or can we help with that?" Some of the resources, these three are all about that, how to make a trail, how to make single track and how to maintain it and how to cut it in a way that is environmentally friendly, but also creates that cool little canopy thing that people want too. So I don't know if that's part of it. You don't have to answer that tonight or something we can look into or follow up later with it or
Yeah,
whatever.
we could definitely look into that. We are setting specific criteria when it comes to standards, or hey, this is the standard width that we want our trails to be from the main spine. And then here's this detail when it comes to the conduit, whatever it is that has to occur within the network itself. But that alone could potentially go into like our SOPs, where we incorporate, and it's just more of a level of standard that we're making sure that, hey, here's our standard, and then no matter who's within the crew, they have a guiding tool to go off of. So
You guys are already
So
on
we
that.
are-
We're working on it,
we're
yes,
currently working on that.
because there'll be one for the Vibe, there'll be one for the Nature Trail, there'll be one for the single track.
That's great.
We'd also probably incorporate conservation related stuff too.
Yeah, it's
Oh, for sure.
it's really incorporating the entire park system. So
Yeah.
we're talking about the conservation team, beautification team, maintenance team, the trails team. So we're looking to implement that as a whole.
Okay, great.
And that is the end of my presentation. Not sure if there's any additional feedback or questions.
Okay.
It's like, now we have.
The next one, receive a report, hold discussion, provide feedback regarding the Vibe Trail History, post system alignment, active projects, Plum Creek East segments of the Vibe Trail and opportunities and strategies.
And so Chris Escudero again, Parks Deputy Director. I'm actually gonna pass this one over to our park planning and project manager, Will Atkinson, who has really been in it from initiation. So he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the Vibe itself. But today our talking points are gonna go talk about the Vibe history, the proposed system alignment, the various guidelines from a design standpoint that were incorporated, and then just the various statuses on where we are at in the projects themselves. So one of the things that I spoke about within the first item was our strategy, how we're looking to incorporate the various strategies when we're trying to loop in all these different buckets when it comes to funding mechanisms. So we're not necessarily going to touch on that too much, but we do want to at least lay out that vision on what it is that staff is looking to do to expand the Vibe. And this is primarily talking about the main spine, the concrete path, but not to say that we're not looking at these secondary paths. So that is part of it, but it's not necessarily gonna be part of the discussion today. So I just want to highlight that up front. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Will.
Thank you. All right, should I say Will Atkinson for the record? Yes, I did. All right, so in 2020, in October, there was in the middle of the pandemic, everybody was feeling confined in their homes and what have you. And there was a big push to get both a city and a county parks bond passed. And they are two separate bond programs that did pass at the same time. As we alluded to earlier, in a lot of ways, there was a dollar for dollar match between the county and the city. So that way there was a multiplier effect in terms of funding sources. A big chunk of that was the East Side Plum Creek Trail improvements, where we had $2 million, and then the county had $2 million. And so following that passage and I wasn't directly involved in the planning and how it was going to be allocated internally within that 4 million. But that was our previous parks director, Mariana. But out of that, there was a significant portion related to trail improvements that had to do with concrete. And at the same time, that same year, it's not shown on here, there was, I want to say 2 out-of-state trips with senior leadership at the city between council and directors, where they went both to Carmel, Indiana, which has a really good and established Rails to Trails program involving interfacing with their downtown area and everything like that. And they also went to Peachtree City, Georgia, which it's a master plan community centered around golf cart centric design and getting around town in your golf carts. So like half the high school has golf carts instead of regular cars. So they did that, and that is what is the nexus or the establishment of how the Vibe Trail came together. So following that, the previous city management, they put together, okay, this is what the Vibe Trail is going to be. We need to get it into the zoning and subdivision code to make sure that when projects come along, that we can require developers to build their segments. And it's primarily the trail system, right? The 83-mile network. It's a web, if you will, throughout the city, both in our city limits and ETJ, that will tie into the Emerald Crown Trail, which will connect Austin and San Antonio. And so we did that in February of 2021. The flip side of just the trails is that every so often there's something called a vibe node, where you're supposed to be higher density living, more walkability. You have vertical mixed use, which is ground floor commercial with apartments up above it. Each one has to have a unique feature to distinguish it from the other vibe node and all that. So we're working through that too. A lot of that side of it is actually out of the planning department, because they deal with more private development and what have you. So there are some of those projects that are actually in review right now that are going to be coming out of the ground over the next few years. So all that to say, we got the code in place in October or February of 21. October of 2022, the city road bond passes, where out of the 10 miles, we have 8 miles adjacent by and large of Vibe Trail, which are included in those plans. And I've been the person reviewing the Vibe Trail aspects of that on those plan sets. So the first project, as we said earlier, is the Marketplace Avenue. That one's the easiest one. It's greenfield. Almost no utilities conflicting with it. So except yeah, it's been a relatively simple project comparatively. So that's happening. A lot of the other projects are still in review, but they are approaching the latter phases and close to completion on those designs and what have you. So from 2021 to present, we have about 9.5 miles existing of the Vibe Trail. None of it's connected, which we're trying to change, but it does exist. We have 1.64 miles under construction, a project we call Retail Roads, which is in the brick and mortar district that'll connect Heroes Memorial Park over to La Verde. There's a few streets being built. They're going to have that section. Six Creeks Boulevard, the next section where the Toll Brothers project is happening as private development. They have about a 1/2 mile section and then adjacent to the street there. And then Marketplace Avenue, which I just discussed. And then 250 BB Road, which a lot of these are in the further along in the deal. But We have about just over 20 miles in review, a mix between public and private projects. So it's pretty exciting. Considering it's only been 4 years that we've implemented it and we have, I don't know, 30% of it either in review, in design, under construction, completed. Like it's crazy. That's really fast. It doesn't seem like it, but it's really fast when it comes to government. So 83.2 miles for build out. There's gonna be 5 I-35 crossings. You have one up, I'll go from north to south. We have one around the Windy Hill area. We have one with the on-site or on-system crossing of I-35 with Kohler's Crossing as part of the road bond. That's gonna be the last project. I know those road bonds that happened because it's I-35. We have one underneath Button Branch just north of Lowe's, so we'll go underneath the bridge there. We have one at Plum Creek. And then actually looks like we have, I think we have 6. And then we have one south of, it's pretty much in alignment of County Road 158. And then, thank you. And then we have one at Yarrington. So it looks like, my mistake, we have 6 crossings, it looks like. So this helps to, while we try not to focus on it too much from the staff perspective, there is from the citizenry and what have you, there's frequently being brought up, there's an east-west divide because of I-35. And the Vibe Trail system is gonna be one of those key components of city infrastructure that helps knit that back together and not car dependent. So you can hike, bike, scooter, golf cart. So anyway. The main spine corridor is the Kyle San Marcos Loop as identified in the Emerald Crown Trail System. And that's the one we're primarily focusing on at this time. We have, and then we have a lot of the other corridors will also have concrete as well. But secondary corridors, depending on the site, we'll have soft surface, single track, other biking activities. Ultimately, water fountains, lighting, trash, receptacles, benches, etc. Trailheads, wayfinding, and signage. And as projects occur, and once we get our documents in place, our SOPs and design standards for all those smaller details like water fountains and all that, those will have become more and more consistent as projects come online. So, and the timing when they do come online is on a per project basis. So, but right now we're working on the bigger stuff in terms of like what's shovel ready, how can we get grant opportunities if we don't have enough money in our capital improvements programs. So,
Yeah, I'll highlight
Go
this
ahead.
a little bit for the implementation strategy. I already talked about it. Past direction was focused around amenities. So in this scenario here that we're looking to do is focusing on the establishment of the trail. So once we start identifying those trails, that's when those furnishings, amenities are gonna be support services for that main corridor. So ultimately, as I highlighted in the first presentation, is we're looking to get shovel ready. So what does that mean? We're looking to get signs in hand for us to say, hey, TxDOT, hey, Texas Parks and Wildlife, or whoever has grant opportunities. Here is, the city has already committed 30%, or we've committed 60, 100%, whatever the design completion may be. Once you start saying, hey, you're ready, it's almost like you put your, what's that saying? You put your money where your mouth is, in a way. So you're committing all these assets and saying, here we are, we're ready, we're all about it. So that's what those grants partners want to see. And that's been conveyed to me. That's the reason why I know that's what they want to see, is that those are the type of applications that are very competitive. And then they truly want to go ahead and fund because they know that they can go ahead and feel confident that the city is going to deliver on it rather than waiting however much long it takes to do engineering work. Which I know we have an engineer here, so not to say you guys take forever.
It's the environment.
It's the environment. You're not wrong. It's everything to make sure that it's can do it. Here's some of the projects. This is the first one we're calling for, just from a permitting standpoint, the St. David's Connector. This is a city project that is funded by the developer. So, the segment in red right there is what we're talking about, and this is, north is actually facing left and south is facing east on the picture. Yeah, that's a 1626 bridge crossing of Union Pacific right there.
There's HEBs on like the. top
HEB's
corner.
off to the top, yeah, off-site there. So the development agreement that, plus the zoning that entitles where Chipotle is, y'all know where Chipotle is and Snooze is and all that? They, the developer agreed to fund $3 million of trail improvement as long as the city designed and built it. And we draw down from that fund periodically. And that plan is under design and it's almost wrapped up at this point for the red alignment there. It's gonna take the southwest corner of that little park behind Chipotle, jump across the detention pond, and then go down at grade, at ground level, underneath the bridge, and then loop back around the tank site. And so that is between 90 and 100% design right now. We are working on getting easements from the developer. We're working with TechSot to get those plans in and get them to sign off on it, and PEC as well. And all thumbs are starting to come up and they're giving us a thumbs up. So that's making progress. So once that is approved, we are going to let that out for bid in this quarter, at the end of April probably, and for construction and then go. So it's happening. And the cool thing about that is on the green part near those two circles on the water tank sides, ultimately the green section from there, it'll stop, it'll pick up there. That is the Marketplace Avenue portion funded through the road bond. So it'll wrap around there and take you all the way up to the Public Safety Center. And then the section on the other end, on the backside of that little park right there, we call the CSW development, they're gonna build that section with they're gonna put some apartments just south of there. And they're gonna pick that up and take it over to the existing section that's right behind Kohl's. There's technically a park back there that was deeded to us, right behind Kohl's. So that project's happening. It's gonna be,
Yeah, construction for that's my project.
Yeah.
Construction is gonna be, they're looking at, depending on how agreements go with the city. They wanna break ground beginning of next year.
Yeah.
But everything's approved. It's apartments, but then there's retail on the ground floor.
oh, you're talking about the apartments breaking ground.
Yeah.
Oh.
Apartments.
So that project's happening in very short order, which is amazing because it'll have pause from a connectivity and contiguous pieces of the trail is gonna be awesome. And offhand, the Marketplace Avenue one, is that I'll just go through this. The next one we have is called Spring Branch. So if you're going north into Plum Creek on Spring Branch Drive, you'll come across a drainage channel that flanks either side of Spring Branch, just after Cowboy Cove's a cul-de-sac. Anyway, so the city has a Texas Parks and Wildlife grant for $200,000 for the Spring Branch section, this is part of the spine of that's Kyle San Marcos Loop. And from receiving that, the Vibe Trail came into inception, and this was on that main route. So we have a 90% plan from Spring Branch Drive all the way out to Veterans Drive already done. This segment right here that you see on the screen is just under half a mile. It's a city-led project. We own the parcel that's in green, the kind of wavy parcel. On the 4th, at City Council, should be approving a resolution to purchase the triangle piece in yellow from the Silverado HOA. Because it spans the entire segment right there, we can't get through it. It's an HOA owned lot, so they're gonna deed it over to us, we're gonna pay for it. And that, we also have $650,000 in this fiscal year to fund, to wrap up to go from 90% to 100% design and construct that section. And then also draw down from Texas Parks and Wildlife for another $200,000. So it's a section, I'm sorry, go back real quick. It's a section in red from Spring Branch Drive over on the right, all the way up into Plum Creek and then down to Cowboy Cove. So it's
it's a cool little section. Right there.
What's that section to the left that's not highlighted? Is that drainage? Trying to figure out where this is.
Yeah, that's a Plum Creek detention pond
Okay, and there's a bridge right there where the red line ends, I think.
to the right.
To the left, the very end of that line, right?
On
So
the
you
corner,
can go up there.
the corner left, he's like, I think you're
Yeah.
talking about the triangle.
I'm just trying to figure out where this is. So I'm thinking right
Oh, yeah, it's an
here.
alley back there
Okay,
for Plum Creek.
so when you look at this,
Mhm.
and I'm not familiar with what this is.
It's a really cool.
That's what I'm asking,
It's really-
what is exciting about it? That's what I wanna know.
Yeah. So it's gonna be on the north bank of the channel, going back into there, and that, a lot of that on the south of. Let me just finish that. So pretty much this area in here is floodplain, but there's enough drainage that comes off of all these subdivisions above stream that is a constantly flowing stream right through here. Like even in the hottest weather, I've been out there in August and we were like just staking out the alignment. And it was constantly flowing. And this is like an old pond. This is the Silverado neighborhood. But then Spring Branch is up here, and it's all called Spring Branch because there's a lot of naturally popping up springs that happen along this corridor. So that's just an old pond that was when it was like rangeland and all that. So it's a really cool little area. There's a lot of trees in there and stuff that are native, so we're working around that. And ultimately, it'll jump out and pop out at the Hometown Kyle trail that cuts across Hometown Kyle too. So. But this segment is a subset of that. And we have money to design and fund. It looks like we're about to close on some property too to help accomplish that.
So one of the cool things about this committee when it was formed, I think, is that they didn't want to get two people from the same neighborhood in the committee. So what I hope is gets more of the members here as they, learn about this kind of stuff. And that first one is a good example for me. So I live at Plum Creek and I'm thinking, how can I get Plum Creek? How can I talk to the HOA and get them to connect to what's going on there? So we don't have to drive the HEB, so we can actually take some kind of alternative form.
Oh, yeah.
So as these things pop up, I want all Kyle to be like, I want to connect. And I hope in a perfect world, there would be people from each neighborhood saying, come on, city, connect to my house. Like, that would be a good problem to have. So if you guys see anything, you're like, oh, I can see how this might work and how in my neighborhood,
Yeah.
that's kind of the goal of everything. Cause I've already fought with the HOA about opening a thing, but the problem is crossing the railroad track. So now that's like,
Yeah,
and that's not the
that's a
city's
whole
problem to get a neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's, the people have to kind of meet partway too, to get it all to work the way it
Well,
should
there's a
work.
section from the Spring Branch down to Burleson, and I think there's a section of the 5
Mhm.
or whatever. It's a really wide, and then that's gonna connect up to the
Oh, yeah.
marketplace in there.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, it's,
So I mean, like, you can go through the Spring Branch neighborhood very easily from Plum Creek and then come around.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
We can't-
that's what I'm trying to picture, because I've ridden through that drainage area that's out, and I've never messed around with that stuff to the
So
right.
down to the south, you go a little bit further, then you're gonna hit Burleson,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then you go left.
We can't get under the railroad. They're just flat out not letting us.
Yeah.
So we have to bypass it. But another cool aspect of this, there's the Trust for Public Lands. So please correct me if that's not, okay. Found out about this cool, Chris told me about this cool tool that you can do interactive deal online where you can plug in, hey, we're gonna put a park here. How does that affect connectivity in a 10-minute walk shed? Purchasing this tract alone is gonna jump our 10-minute walk shed from a 73% population. 73% of the population is within 10 minutes of a walk shed right now, 2 points to 75% over the entire city. Because there's no other parks in the area. No public parks.
And is that gonna become a park?
Technically, yes.
It'll be public, it'll be a parkland.
Primarily a trail, but I don't know, maybe there's
Yeah,
other.
That's what we like in this
Identified in the
community,
defined
like-
future.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Pending council direction, of course, it's gonna be subject.
You
to
can always
vote.
make like a little pump truck in that triangle.
That's right.
Maybe. The section to the north is a part that's not floodplain, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hopefully
So-
might add some fun to it.
Yeah. This is the Plum Creek Waterleaf segment that council approved on January 7th for full design. It starts down in Abundance Lane, right by the existing parking lot for Waterleaf Park, and it goes north along the south bank, all the way up to essentially the Button Creek section where it cuts off down to the south. So the main corridor, the red part, is 0.93 miles, but there's several trailheads that we're also gonna be incorporating that are gonna be 10 feet wide instead of the standard 12, which gets it all the way up to 1.57 miles. And so we are having bi-weekly meetings right now with Sean Bergenpolk, who's designing this. We're actually gonna go out on site Friday morning first thing to kind of feel it out for what they're what they're proposing. I'm really cold. It's like, I can feel it.
I don't know why it's something that, it was hot earlier, now I'm like, ooh.
Anyway, so this project's in full design. This is funded by the 2020 Parks Bond, part of that you saw earlier for the budget. And the full design will be done by midsummer of this year and then for bid out in fall of this year with completed by summer of 2026. And the segment, everything in green right there, that's actual city parkland that we own. And the segment that's in that gap, we already have it out for, the city was already hiring a group to go out and get easements for the upgraded wastewater line. So we just jumped on that bandwagon for that segment and said, hey, can we upgrade the existing, utilize the existing current wastewater line easement, which is 20 feet wide, which is what we need for the Vibe Trail, and add a use of a recreational trail easement on that, since they're gonna abandon that current wastewater line in place. So they added that to the appraisal, and it's out to that landowner, the Sunset Ridge Manufactured Home people. And so we should have that at the latest in our hands on our easement by June. And that's if it goes to condemnation. They don't believe it's gonna go to condemnation. The landowners will be like, yeah, just pay us whatever they negotiate. And we get it before that. So we'll have legal access for the full.
You can't build until that's done though.
Yeah.
You have that, okay.
Like the number
We're gonna
one
get it
goal.
regardless, because we need it for public purpose, like it has to happen. So we're gonna get it. But it'll be concurrent with design. Man, it is so cold here. Retail roads. This is what I was talking about, the brick and mortar district. Right here is the Performing Arts Center for Hayes ISD. There's an ARC medical building right here and all that. This is Heroes Memorial Park, and you have La Verde Park up here. This road is being constructed with the TERS #2 funding. And the Sprouts is being built right here with some retail buildings. So this alignment right here, about 1/4 mile, it's under construction right now.
And then just south of that, for the Plum Creek Phase 3, we're starting design on that. That's kind of.
Oh, just south of Culver's?
Yeah.
That's right. You're on that team also?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Because I know there was that pre-development meeting several months ago on that.
Yeah, we're
Forgot about that.
having, because there's right away acquisition for the roundabout.
Oh, yeah, that's
We just
right.
got the 60% fine.
Okay. So there's another segment coming up in relatively short order. This is private development. This is Toll Brothers. This is the roundabout at Six Creeks Boulevard. You got Old Stagecoach Road over here. And so this, if you go down to the end of this road, it'll say you can't go any further. We're under construction. And so this is the approximate location of the 0.57 mile section for the Toll Brothers section. So it's estimated to be complete by this summer.
I've been on that. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice, yeah.
It's really cool. This is a really short section. Here, right here is, where am I at? This is Lowe's right here, I-35, and there's a trail button branch just below and north of Lowe's. So this is 250 BB Road. We call it Kyle Springs development, but it's vertical mixed use. And down here on the north bank of the branch of the creek in red is a approximately 235-foot section. They're also going to build a little park here as well. It's not a lot, but it's something, so I wanted to throw it in there. But they're going to build a road back up here. That's what's under construction up here, and then we're going to have an easement back here for legal access. so you can still get to it. Steeplechase Park, these are parks that we are trying to think ahead from a CIP perspective. At this point, we don't have specific dedicated funding to it, but this is on that spine to connect over to the Emerald Crown Trail. So we already have Waterleaf. We already, like, we're just trying to think ahead, but we know we have most of the land in Steeplechase Park. With the exception of this little weird out piece right here. I'm not really sure why. Anyway, but this will go from, if you're ever out there, right at the detention pond of 800 Goforth Square, where like the pizza place is, there's a kidney dialysis place and all that. The sidewalk ends right here. So this section going all the way over to Lehman Road, to upgrade it to Vibe Trail standards will be about 1.2 million. That includes, that's assuming 1.5 million a mile plus 15% design cost. Those numbers are rough. We don't actually have a full design cost at this time. That's a back of the napkin kind of feel to it. But we do have a 30% design completed as of 2023 with the road bond or parks bond. So that's how much we think it's going to cost. It may be a little bit more than that, but next steps to get all the connectivity. So, but we're going to probably incorporate that in a master plan for Steeplechase Park whenever, so we can get a more holistic picture of the park itself to upgrade it for multiple components like playgrounds and new fields and stuff like that as well, and conservation. Next, please. Thank you. This is what we're calling the Philomena section of Plum Creek for the trail. This one is a little over half a mile. In this design cost right here, the design is just under 400,000. We actually have Sean Bergenpolk, who's the city's Vibe Trail consultant, give us what we call an engineer's estimated probable cost for design and construction. And so that goes from North Burleson all the way down to Steeplechase, which in total is total cost of about 2.8 million or a little over. We are seeking a grant from the Transportation Alternative Grant from TxDOT for the segment for right here at I-35 at the right of way, all the way down to Steeplechase, so we can connect it. And the first phase is due at the end of February. There's a phase 1 and phase 2 application. Phase 1 is just to really look at it and say, do they think you have a chance to get to phase 2? And then we'll really get into the design and application on phase 2. So the cool thing about this grant, or this section at least, is from I-35 down to Philomena Drive, which is still labeled as Goforth, but we renamed that road. We already have a 15-foot right-of-way for the trail. It was put in place whenever this subdivision platted right in here. They gave us that on the north bank. So our direction to the designer is stay within that right-of-way as much as you possibly can. Utilize the resources we have. We know we're going to have to get a couple of trail segments across the detention ponds right here to these two cul-de-sacs for neighborhood connectivity. And then we've made contact with this landowner right here who developed the Elmhurst Drive, Goforth Square subdivision to see if he'd be willing to have discussions to figure out how we can partner with him to get legal access through there. So that project looks more real than any of the other future projects at the moment. So we have the segment right here, Steeplechase Park, Lehman Road. That way is south. This way is north. Lehman High School's down here. The city is pursuing a condemnation for an 1.5 acre piece right here along the back of Four Seasons Farm for both wastewater and trail. We're going to actually get the full land, not just an easement. So that's going to be done first half of this year, which gives us legal access from Steeplechase Park down to Lake Kyle. And this segment is just under half a mile, approximately $100,000. That's a back of the napkin math based on $1.5 million with 15% design cost. And it's on hold because we are waiting on that acquisition. So next slide. Right here is the end of the previous slide in green. This section right here, it's owned by Walton, Texas. And here's the other end of the Waterleaf segment right here. So this is a key project It's about 48 acres. There is a development agreement that was approved in 2019 where they were supposed to give us that land within 90 days. Which I don't know why it fell through the cracks. I discovered this last year. So I started making contact, started pestering Walton. They are not known for responding, but they finally did. Like a month ago. So we are working on getting a meeting. We've had one meeting. We're having a follow-up meeting to see when they are gonna deed that over to us, so we can have full legal access. We have access just to go on the unimproved trail surface through here to get up to Lake Kyle. But we can't really make any improvements except for like the occasional trash bin or add a bench. But this is gonna be on the spine trail of the Waterleaf, or of the Vibe Trail as well, but this is about $2 million. Any questions? We got a lot coming. Most of it design, some of it in construction.
Yeah, can you go back to, I think it's the Six Creeks one?
Yeah.
That one, go back forward.
There.
Quick. I think if you, obviously you can't zoom out on here, but I think if you were to zoom out, you'd get Plum Creek North is actually not that far away from that top part there. Is there any way you can look at some connectivity from there? It was just open up.
So the future 150 bypass is gonna connect FM 150 West all the way down to Yarrington Road.
Mhm.
Is going to have a shared use path on it that we're gonna count as part of our trail system, and we're coordinating with Hayes County. And with the road bond that passed this last November, they're going into full design on that. So that's which is gonna be approximately right here, actually.
Yeah, okay.
That scar is the Kinder Morgan gas pipeline, and the road flanks it, so it's gonna tie in right there. And then that'll go all the way up and form also part of the northwest loop into Robert S. Light Boulevard.
Okay.
Ultimately, it'll cut through Anthem. There's a gap in there on Anthem. And so there will be an opportunity to continue it, and I know the Emerald Crown Trail is getting legal access through Anthem right now. They've made contact and they're working through that with the Great Springs project. So from that point at Anthem, going east on the north side of Jack C. Hayes High School, over into Plum Creek North, then there's a drainage channel that goes down to the Sportsplex, which we're designing with the Parks Master Plan. There's a really, there's a landowner there that we finally got access for a water line to help with a pressure plane, which was a very difficult landowner to work with, standing by their rights, which is fine. But we had to go through condemnation to get just the water line. We have not pursued, at that time, it was deemed politically too risky to pursue an easement for the Vibe Trail adjacent to it. So we don't have that gap yet, and we haven't made any progress. We haven't even approached them. But part of what's on my radar also, it's not the highest priority, is to figure out how can we identify how to get Plum Creek North or get legal access to the drainage channel on Plum Creek North to pursue the Vibe Trail west of the Sportsplex and go. So I've only got,
Where is that? I don't know, don't think it's part of the Vibe Trail, but
Mhm.
on the north side, I think it's Rickardson now. It's
super wide.
It's very wide.
Yes.
The only thing then, like, when it goes around, like, in a couple of locations, it goes from like 8 feet wide to like 4 feet.
Yes.
And then it goes
Right when it hits like the roundabout or whatever, yeah. That's not part of the Vibe Trail, but there is. Part of what I'm trying to do is go do some ground sleuthing in that drainage channel that drains over to Sportsplex and see where it might be the easiest from an eyeballing it, kind of where we could put the Vibe Trail, and then go from there. And I've been with these other projects, plus other city projects, so I'm pretty busy.
And one of the things that comes up when we do have meetings, obviously, we develop it. Builder still owns it, HOA. A lot of people are really interested in getting more trails within.
Are you on the PDNC, the Architectural Review Committee?
Mhm.
Okay.
No, just a resident.
Oh, you live in the neighborhood there?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if we get, so the HOA is still being run and managed by the developer.
Yeah.
That'll be an
So,
opportune
but-
time.
But I mean, a lot of people, a lot of, owners
Mm.
really wanna get more trails and do it.
It could be something that we could explore.
Yeah, there's some. I don't wanna mess up their pit. They have some fun financing to
Yeah.
get that development off the ground. And I wanna be careful if we're pursuing any easements in there, that we don't mess that up. They're,
I mean, like, some of the roads are, is even kind of be public,
yeah.
so it's just,
How can we hit two birds with one stone and try to figure it all out? Yeah. So it's on my radar to reach out to them, but we got a lot of projects.
Yeah.
So,
but
We,
because I think even if NARC isn't like April right now,
mm,
I think once you get it, another opportunity that you, like, owners
Mhm.
HOA, people would be interested in doing some.
absolutely. We're interested too in trying to figure out some trails through that drainage channel, getting up into that neighborhood, so. And it'll connect going south down Cromwell, which will also connect through Sportsplex and come down to Here's Memorial Liberty. So, for future segments.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's all I have. Any other questions? We had the one with Plum Creek North.
Love it. Thank you so much for all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's
That's
so
great.
exciting.
I know we had a lot of projects happening, and then when I was asked to put a list together of what the different projects were and what status they were, I was like,
Kept going.
holy cow, there's a
We did
lot. And that was just I try to figure out like a quarterly update, and then we have an interactive vibe trail map on the planning department webpage. So whenever we figure out, when we realize there's updates to it, so we reach out to GIS and ask them to get it updated and rolling as well. So we try to get that at least publicly quarterly updated, so.
I see why you said you're having fun. I mean, it's
And
technical and
this-
in-depth, but man, so much good stuff.
This is just the trails side of the projects that Parks is doing. Like I mentioned earlier, we got the Republic Drive stuff going. We have. We're looking at a playground replacement for steeplechase. So this is like a quarter of the projects that I'm somehow involved with from a Parks perspective. And it's just trails. So this is, I'm a division of me. But it's fun. I'm enjoying it. It is, like legitimately. It's
Cool to see, like, I was like, how you construct, just even like a little 250 foot section, how it now like something brings something together.
Oh, yeah.
So I think-
And that's those, you can see those apartments, they're going up right now between Beaver Road and Lowe's. You got like this jagged peak roof line on them. Which I think is interesting and weird at the same time, but really cool. Anyway. We're done.
Should we adjourn?
Do we think that the Trails Committee objective has slightly changed? It sounds like from what Tamara was saying, beginning, we more need to focus on, and this is something you guys know what you're doing, obviously now, not that you didn't before, but now we know about it. That we should be more focused on like the outside funding, bringing that into the smaller offshoots of the main trails that you guys are. Am I wrong in thinking that, or?
What at the committee should be focused on? That's a good question.
Or is it something that, maybe staff, or a combination, maybe staff has some ideas to present to y'all if we come up on an interesting opportunity to apply for grants or
Okay.
if we see a section. or
And it will
something.
be. I mean, I would say that depending on the timelines, a lot of those are forecasted that they're set deadlines. So like the one that Will mentioned, the Tech Stock grant, that has a submission deadline of February, like mid-February. And so it really all depends on the timing, but that's not to say that we can't bring items, a month before. Texas Parks and Wildlife opens their grants in May, and then they're due in August. So a lot of these we in a way already know about, that we can be proactive and bring updated strategies, and we'll be providing quarterly updates of where we are just on trails alone. So I mean, if you are wanting to see anything further, then you know, we could definitely put together some presentations, some ideas on some direction and seeing what the committee thinks from that regard. But there are a lot of moving pieces, as what you've heard today, on how all this will come into fruition. A big component of that's gonna be the master plan. So the master plan, but I think one of the recommendations is gonna be, let's go ahead and look at a comprehensive trail plan. That we're dissecting and we're looking into this microscope and identifying maybe those other corridors, even though the Vibe has an alignment. Maybe we haven't thought about of another alignment that exists, or there's a new development that wasn't identified at the time of putting together that map. So there's a lot of variables, and then you start looping in pump tracks and all these secondary uses that are all along besides just the concrete trails. So we are looking to, and I can probably assure you that's gonna be a recommendation on behalf of the master plan. Because there, even though we did include a focus group, as specific to trails, that's not to say that they didn't necessarily gather all the necessary information for us to go ahead and create action items. So that's gonna be something that we'll be bringing back, hoping here in the next couple months, letting you know, hey, here is what the master plan findings are. Number one being trails, you know, what is it? How is it that we should be setting ourselves up to start furthering this realm essentially? So I don't know if that answers your question, but we are looking for solutions to a lot of these. So if there's ideas, but you know, just like Mr. Keller has provided some information to us, we welcome all the ideas from all board members on how we can further advance trails.
Yeah, that's a good question, because things have changed so much. Don't hesitate to come up with ideas or even question, what is this committee? Because I think we all kind of are wondering, like, we were doing one thing, now it's really different. So I'm always up for those conversations and say, do we need to have this committee? I don't even know if trails committees, what they do in other cities, I don't know. But I don't want to waste anyone's time. So I do want to make sure everyone, you know, I do want people to feel valued coming here and that we
Yeah.
can offer the city as much as we can.
Absolutely, and then, you know, we can talk internally and see, you know, how that vision may be, but if you guys have ideas of how is it that you all can support, I mean, I can tell you up front, you guys are advocates for trails, advocates for parks. Just knowing the information that you saw today, not a lot of people know what's happening behind the scenes. And that's part of the thing that we're trying to do too, is trying to be better about telling our story. So that goes all about building these advocates into the community, that not necessarily for them to speak up whenever there's misinformation out there, but more just knowing what's happening in your city and hey, the city is trying to improve quality of life for our residents. So it's a little bit more than just, I think it's helpful whenever people stand up for us, but there's times where hey, you just want to know what's happening. I mean, if you're a citizen of Kyle, you kind of want to know what's happening here. So it's your right to know what's happening. So if you introducing new ideas or ways that we can further advance or make you feel like you're making an impact in this, I mean, I can tell you up front that you are making an impact just because you're here alone hearing what we're doing. And if you could spread that information out there to everybody, that'll be helpful. But if there's other ways that we can do to increase that, then by all means, we're all ears.
Yeah, I would say like getting input from people. And a little trail master plan.
Mhm.
And I would say a good place to start is overlapping that with the transportation master. Because that's where
Absolutely.
you're gonna inevitably have signs.
Absolutely, and that's one thing, the city recently hired a transportation director, I forget his title. I just know his name is Mike, I'm trying to remember his last name.
There's two mics.
Yeah, there's two mics now.
And they're on the same level in the organization.
Yeah, so the city did hire, if you watched the most recent council meeting, he's introduced. I think it's Mike Smith. It's not-
I feel like it's, but I don't know.
Well, that's easy to forget, to be fair.
And so we have a new transportation director who's gonna be starting to implement the transportation master plan and absolutely Mike Trimble. he's gonna be leading the charge in that end. And absolutely, parks, trails, that's gonna be a component of that, is how are we overlaying that and connecting all these pieces. So that is mostly how a lot of cities do the trail, or really just transportation planning aspect. But the trails is gonna be a major component, not only just for parks, but for that transportation master plan on how you're creating these bike paths, because everyone wants to do alternative modes of transportation. And so that transportation piece may have a sublayer. Maybe that's where the parks comes in. They don't have a sublayer that maybe parks doesn't have to do an individual one. We just loop it all together into one. So that'll be a discussion that staff will be having.
In short, it's complicated, but that's not a satisfactory answer either. So,
A lot of moving pieces.
yeah.
No other feedback.
Motion to adjourn? Other motion? Black, second, and we're done.
Vote.
Oh, all in favor? All opposed? The first vote for the night, so I as well.
Like, technically I have to.
I will say, unless the rules otherwise, have to